right. Let's see. Can you hear me? We're going live on Facebook and on Instagram. So check 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Turn up my volume just a little bit. About now. How do I sound? All right. Seeing who is on here. Today we're talking about the dangers of a plant-based diet. So I'm going live on Instagram and I'm also going live on Facebook. So if you prefer Facebook, jump on Facebook. I've never gone live on Facebook, so I'm giving it a try. Not Facebook, I'm sorry. Wow. YouTube, not Facebook. Let's try this again. I'm going live on Instagram and on Facebook, and I'm talking about the dangers of a plant-based diet. I really want to take some questions. I'm going to touch a little bit on some of the messages that I've been getting from different people and who's been plant-based for years, experimenting with it and having negative effects. I know I said Facebook again multiple times, not Facebook, but YouTube. How's everybody doing today? We're going to try this. I am on YouTube Live and I'm on Instagram Live, not Facebook. Never gone live on YouTube before. I just started my YouTube channel, I want to say about 3 weeks ago. And so I'm testing it out, seeing how it does. So if you are on YouTube or if you prefer to be on YouTube, hop on YouTube and say hello in the comments. So I got a very interesting message the other day from a young person who decided to go the plant-based route, and it totally jacked her body up. She said her eyes were starting to sag and droop. They were also, one of her eyeballs was kind of like being lazy, I guess, moving on its own, and just having a bunch of feminine issues in her body, all from a plant-based diet. And so some of the things that I talk about, some of the problems that a lot of people develop over time, they develop issues with their eyesight, they develop issues with their brain function. So, okay, somebody just asked a really good question. They said, when you say plant-based, do you mean both vegan and vegetarian? So when I say plant-based, I'm specifically talking about vegan and people who don't classify themselves as vegan, because when you understand what the terminology for vegan or where it stems from people who have a love or a care for animals, and they don't want to harm the animals. And so they will restrict themselves from eating meat and dairy, and they'll only eat plants. So whereas a vegetarian will eat eggs, a vegetarian will eat butter, a vegetarian will eat some seafood. It just depends on the level of what a vegetarian is. But as a vegetarian, you're still not consuming the levels of saturated fat and the levels of heme iron and all the different things that the body needs to be successful and for your reproductive organs to prosper. Now, if somebody's on here and they remember when I first came off of a plant-based diet, I don't know if you remember, but one of my eyes, which specifically this one, whenever I would be on camera, it was kind of lazy just a little bit. Does anybody remember that? Did anybody even notice that at all? And I still don't think it's fully recovered, but it's a lot better than what it was when I first started adding meat back into my diet. And that's one of the things that the young lady mentioned. She said that, her eyes are starting to droop and one of them are kind of doing its own thing. And one of the reasons those things happen to people is because when you don't consume meat, meat has something called retinol and vitamin K. Those things are pivotal and vital to the human body eyes. And so that's one of the reasons why you develop those things. Let's see, I've heard they feed plastic to commercial lot cattle. Is that true? I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised of anything that you hear. I can't confirm that, but when you think of, well, somebody posted something on, I think it was Instagram the other day, and they said that, they showed a picture of the grocery store, and they said something along the lines like human pet food, right? If you look at a lot of the things that are in cereals and grains and all the stuff you see available as food, right? Look at what dog food is made out of. Look at what the dog and the cats and the pet treats are made of. Human pet food. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they feed plastics to the commercial cows. In China, they also put plastics in rice. I have heard that. I've seen a few videos where people say it's plastic. But once again, what is the root cause, or let me not say the root cause, what is the one common factor that we can say why they are feeding us or trying to feed us these types of food? Why are they feeding us these types of foods? And the single most common answer is because they're cheap and they lack nutrients. Because where does plastic go? To the colon. Plastics go into the same place that mushrooms and fiber or plants go. They go into the colon. And so you have little to no nutrients that the body is absorbing from many of the so-called foods that we eat. So therefore, we develop all types of sickness and disease and brain issues and eyesight issues and all these different things because we're eating nutrient-less foods. Yep, not even the rich are aware of the toxic lifestyle. You're absolutely correct. They want to depopulate us in every possible way. Absolutely correct. Well, it's a twofold thing, right? Here's the deal. We hear things about depopulation, but when you really look at what's going on, this is my personal opinion, okay? When you look at what's really going on, it's a funnel. The goal is to funnel us into the medical arena, into the pharmaceutical arena, where we're on their drugs, where we are in their hospitals constantly, right? And so that's one of the root causes, you to depopulate, but also make you a continual sick patient, not kill you all the way, but make you sick enough to where you'll be dependent on them. So when you feed people nutrient-less foods, when you convince them that meat causes cancer and everything else, right? They're afraid, and so they eat all of this processed foods that you think is vegan, right? plant-based, but it's made in a plant. So technically they're not lying to you. It's plant-based, but it's made in a different kind of plant. It's not plant that grows outside. It's made inside of a factory, a plant, right? And so dependency on big pharma. Yep. The tobacco companies bought the food companies and love getting us addicted to their crap. Absolutely. That's 100% facts, right? I agree. They make us sick and then give us these meds. They don't treat the root causes. Hey, Zach, I need you to DM me. I want to talk to you about something. What's going on? Yeah, send me a message so that you can remind me. I want to talk after the live. I want to talk to you about something whenever you get off. Make us all dependent on big pharma, big brands, industrialization. Exactly. Listen, if you're on here and you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please head on over to YouTube and subscribe to Kevin the Visionary. If you can't find it, look in my bio and it'll take you straight to my YouTube channel. I really want to focus on YouTube as well as Instagram. So if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do. My gut issues have practically vanished. 3 months carnivore. Exactly. Same here. The only time I have gut issues, and I'll be honest, right? Every now and then I'll eat some French fries or I'll eat some things that's not 100% carnivore. And guess what? Immediately stomach start hurting. Immediately I get gas. And I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. And so, and what is the root cause of stomach problems and gas? The colon, right? And so we know, we're eating foods that's going to the colon, and it's not that the colon, when you have gas, right, and when your stomach hurt, the colon is actually doing its job, because the colon is where it produces alcohol, gas, all these different things. It's called fermentation, and that's how the food, or that's how the stuff that you eat, because it's not food, most of it is not food, that's how the stuff that you eat gets broken down and processed in the body. And so that's one of the things that I really want to talk about. So let's get into a little bit more on, so that we're on topic, right? The dangers of a plant-based diet. So what are some of the things that would be dangerous when being on a plant-based or vegan diet, right? Because somebody asked the question, am I saying the same thing? Am I saying, when I say plant-based, am I also talking about a vegan diet? And the answer is yes, because the only thing that separates a vegan diet from a plant-based diet is the fact that vegans care more about the animals, but they don't care about all the animals. Let's get this straight, because the vegans only focus on the chickens, the cows, the dogs, the bigger animals, right? But let's think about, if you look into how many snakes, rabbits, squirrels, possums, all the different foxes, all the different animals, the bees, right? All the different animals and insects that get killed from harvesting plants. They never talk about that, right? If you're interviewing people on YouTube, can you get the Primal Stoic IG? I've seen people do well on both raw and cooked carnivore diet. Both raw, are you saying raw as in raw vegan, or raw non-cooked carnivore diet? I just want to make sure I understand. I think you're saying raw carnivore diet, but I want to make sure that I'm understanding. Is that what you're saying? Yes, the cute furry ones, exactly. They don't care about that. Plant-based can be dangerous to physical safety as well. The cartels run the avocado industry with iron fists. Yep. Since the demand of avocados have grown, the cartel is in on to sell. Yep. I believe that. Right. Okay. So you're talking about raw meat. So I've seen 1 or 2 videos on YouTube, and I think I've seen somebody's Instagram page who consumes raw meat. Here's the thing. What about eating for your blood type? I'm going to answer that next. So here's the thing. We've been spooked. We've been duped. We've been bamboozled and tricked into being afraid, right? And so they tell you if you consume raw meat, you'll get this, that, blah, blah, blah. But then you see people who go on a binge and they'll eat nothing but raw meat and they're fine, never made it to the hospital. Then when you look into it, you find out a lot of the times you get sick is from fecal matter, not the meat, right? It's from improperly killing and cleansing and washing. You know, it's fecal matter. I'll just stay there, right? And so I've tasted raw meat before. I've tasted raw meat from a local farm. Smells different, tastes different. Really, it didn't have a taste. It just, mentally, it's meat. Liver King eats raw meat every day. Well, that's a whole nother story, but I don't think the way I used to think, right? What are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying that I'm answering a question. Somebody said, what are you suggesting, sir? I'm not suggesting you eat raw meat. That is not my advice. I'm saying that people eat raw meat. So let me go. There was a question. I want to answer the question. Okay, what about eating for your blood type? So I've read a book a long time ago about eating for your blood type. Based on my research, so I'm going to give you my opinion, okay? Because since I changed my diet, let me slow down because sometimes I speak really fast and sometimes my brain works faster than my mouth. So here's my opinion, okay? My opinion is this. The human anatomy works one way and one way only. It doesn't matter if you're short, fat, Asian, Chinese, Asian and Chinese. Why did I do that? It doesn't matter if you're short, fat, tall, slim, from the Caribbean, from Europe, from Africa. The human anatomy works the same, okay? Our body doesn't care about blood type. Remember, I said this is my opinion. Our body doesn't care about blood type. Here's what the human body cares about. The human body doesn't understand acid foods. The human body doesn't understand dead or alive live foods because a lot of times the vegan community, they like to talk about you need to stop eating acidic foods, or they say you need to not eat meat because meat is dead. You need live foods in your body. Ignorant. It's foolishness. Here's why. And everything that I'm telling you, I didn't get this from what I heard somebody say. I actually take the time now, right? Because I've gotten wiser. I've understood how we've been duped. I take the time now to actually go research. Not one, not two. I look up multiple different sources, right? Here's the deal. The human body does not understand acidic foods. It doesn't understand blood type when it comes to nutrition and eating, right? The human body does not understand any of that. Here's what the human body understands. Vitamins, minerals, proteins, water, fats, and carbohydrates. That's what the human body understands. So when you consume anything, I'm going to get to some of these questions. I'm going to circle back around. I want to stick to this point and answer these questions. So when it comes to the human body, anything you consume, it goes into the stomach and then it goes into the small intestines. The small intestines says, I'm looking for water. I'm looking for protein, minerals, vitamins, carbs. And it immediately tries to break whatever you put it, whether it's plastic, whether it's meat, whether it's cheese, whether it's plants, whatever you put in your body, the small intestines immediately tries to break it down into that. if the small intestine does not find fat, if it doesn't find vitamins, minerals, proteins that it can break down small enough to be absorbed into the bloodstream, and the fat gets absorbed into the lymphatic system, it immediately kicks it into the colon. So this is why people on a plant-based diet are always hungry. I did a live, and I didn't notice this until somebody pointed out. I did a live about 2 months ago with a vegan, right? And during the live, he kept going to the refrigerator. He kept reaching over for nuts and snacks. And somebody in a comment was like, man, he done ate about 5 times in an hour. And the last time I ate was about maybe 3:30, 4 o'clock. The live was for 7. Went through the whole live, was fine. The reason why vegans and people on a plant-based diet are always hungry, or they're hungry so fast, I was one of them. I could talk about it because I have the experience, right? It's because the food that you're consuming bypasses the small intestines. There's nothing there for the small intestines to absorb, so it automatically kicks it into the colon, and you're consuming a nutrient-less diet. Are there some nutrients that gets absorbed? Absolutely, but it's very minimal. So eating for your blood type. I'm going to circle back and finish this question. I think there might be something to that, but for the most part, based on my experience, this is my suggestion, I think that it's not a whole lot there, because your blood type and the food that you consume can only be broken down into 2 things. Either it has a cell wall, or 2 fashions. Either the food you're consuming has a cell wall or it does not. So plants have cell walls. The human body does not have the ability to digest plants, because that's why they call it fiber. Fiber is another word for cellulose. And if you look up the definition of, if you ask the question, is fiber, or can the human body digest fiber? It will tell you. Just Google this. It's a simple one. Fiber goes relatively undigested in the human body. So if kale and spinach and lettuce and fruits and all these different things, which there's categories of fiber, right? But if all of these things have fiber in them, it's bypassing the single most organ that's responsible for nutrient absorption and digestion, which is the small intestines. The small intestine is responsible for 60, listen to this, write this down, etch this in your mind. The small intestines is responsible for 60 to 90% of nutrient absorption. Think about that for a second. So if you're consuming a plant that has a cell wall, which is fiber, in the human body, the small intestines cannot digest it, 60 to 90% is gone. So it goes to the colon, and the colon is responsible for extracting 5 to 10%. Think about that. So you're supposed to get 90% nutrients, and you might get 5, you might get 10 from plants. It's unhealthy. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and I'm going to cut it right here because there's a lot more questions. The second thing is, like mushrooms, for instance, right? Mushrooms. I'm going to make a burger out of mushrooms. I'm going to make mushroom chicken. I'm going to do all this stuff. You see all this going on in the plant-based community. Mushrooms is even harder to digest in the small intestines. Mushrooms have something called chitin, chitin. Chitin, just like fiber or cellulose, goes relatively undigested in the human body, straight to the colon. So what are you getting from your mushrooms? So eating for your blood type, I don't think there's a whole lot there. It's my personal opinion. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Hi again. I'm writing you to thank you for following us and our journey. As you know, we have been raising funds a month and cash. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna leave that one alone for right now. I watched that. The dude was nonstop eating. Yeah. Who was it? So I don't remember who pointed it out, but yeah, he kept eating all the time. He was he didn't have an idea about nutrition at all. I remember watching that. The video was so informative for me since it was the first time I learned about how we digest. Oh, really? Okay. So, you know what's interesting? That video or that live did more than I imagined. So many people reached out to me, even even vegans. I don't know if if you saw the video of the first YouTube video I posted. The guy in that video reached out to me and said, listen, he said, one of my clients, I was plant-based. I was helping out a really prominent vegan, a person who sells herbs, and he's very popular, herbalist, right? He said, one of the clients sent me your live. And when I watched your live, first of all, I was blown away that the vegan plant-based guy didn't know anything about nutrition. And secondly, the way you answered those questions. And so it's very interesting. Let's see. I get hemorrhoids from plant-based diet. Yeah, because plants are dangerous. They don't want to be eaten. I believe equatorial people can digest fiber better than others. I mean, that's your belief. I'm not going to say no to you. I just understand how the human body works. Fiber is another host. Give me more problems, and it was recommended by my guest. I guarantee you it was recommended by the doctor. Yep. I just came on. I'm trying to figure out what you are promoting. What am I promoting? Ask a different question, because what I'm promoting is health. What I'm promoting is the dangers of a plant-based diet, because I was on a plant-based diet. What I'm promoting is the fact that you need meat and dairy in your diet. What I'm promoting is that there's a lie being out there about meat being unhealthy and meat being dangerous for the human body, when it's the processed foods. It's the foods made in plants. That's what's harming the human body. Weston A. Price did a study on indigenous people and generations. And what he found was the grandparents had round, perfect teeth, round face, built bodies. And then the parents' face wasn't as plumped, and their teeth wasn't as good. But when they got to the children, 3 generations, grandparents, children, and then the children's children, by the time they got to the 3rd generations, their teeth was crooked, their face was smaller, and they had problems with their bodies. What was the difference between the grandparents, the parents, and the children? They all introduced processed foods to their diet. So the problem ain't the meat, right? So this is a fact. Let's tackle this fact. Tell me if you agree with this. More people eat salads, fruits, and vegetables today than ever before. Do you agree with that or not? But yet, the obesity, the cancer, the heart attacks, the liver problems, the kidney problems, everything, I can keep going, has been on the rise since like 1950. But more people eat salads today than ever before. Why is that? It can't be the meat. It has to be something else, because guess what? My grandmother, my grandfather, they was eating meat. They was eating all types of stuff. They didn't have those problems. Excuse me. So, people can say, okay, so you was raised on balance. I don't have a problem with a balance. But you just have to understand that those plants are not doing what you think they're doing. You just have to understand that. You see what I'm saying? Processed foods is terrible. Industrial seed oils, absolutely. You know, I did a huge, I won't call it a huge, but I did a few days. I did some digging into seed oils and how they're made, right? Check this out. I remember growing up, even as an adult, having oil sitting in the cabinet for weeks and weeks and months, right? You think that oil's bad? You think the oil ever go bad? At some point, it's just sitting on the shelf, right? Absolutely. Here's the trick. Seed oils are bleached and deodorized. What does that mean? Bleaching is so that the color looks a certain way. Deodorize or deodorization is so that it smells a certain way. What am I saying? I'm saying to you, if seed oil was not bleached or deodorized, when you poured it in the pot, it would stink and it would burn, or it would become discolored, because you would recognize immediately that this oil is rancid or spoiled. But when you deodorize it and when you bleach it, it lasts for years, and you won't know that you're eating rancid, spoiled food. Think about that. Go look into that and let me know what you think. So let's see here. I think I have a couple more questions. Meat consumption has diminished, yet sickness is on the rise. If meat was the culprit, wouldn't people be getting healthier? Having said that, boom. More people is eating plants. Less people are eating meat. Think about this, right? When you go into the grocery store, how big is the meat section? Think about that. How big is the meat section compared to everything else that's being sold? Depending on what grocery store you go to, it ain't that big. More people eat salads and rice and beans and fruits, vegetables, breads, cereal than they do meat today. When you get on Instagram, every other Instagram channel, plant-based. What I eat in a day: fruits, berries, quinoa, all this stuff, right? Come on. So when you consume, okay, so my body does not digest beef well, to each his own. Okay. What are you eating your beef with? Are you eating the beef by itself, or are you eating the beef with rice or vegetables? Right? What is the beef doing to the body? Is it organic beef? Are you eating beef from I know for some people, it depends on where they live. It's tough for them to go to a farm and get some real beef. But it's just like the milk, right? People say I'm lactose intolerant. Milk messes my stomach up. But that's not milk. The stuff you get from the store that's not real milk. That's pasteurized milk or ultra pasteurized milk. What happens to the milk when it's pasteurized? It kills all the nutrients. Everything beneficial is dead. And that's why it hurts your stomach, because there's no longer milk. But when you go and you try some raw milk from a farm, it's a game changer. I fell in love. Yep. So you might want to think about the type of meat you're eating, what you're eating the meat with. Try eating the beef by itself. No sides, no nothing. Put some butter on there. Don't cook it in in seed oils, cook it in butter or ghee, and give that a try and DM me. Let me know what you think. All seed oils are rancid because they are unstable chemical. Exactly. Unstable. What about all the talk in the medical community about green leafy vegetables to combat cancer, heart disease? Exactly. Cancer is on a rise. It's out of control. But eat some leafy greens though. Yeah. Okay. I know who remember the plant-based guru guy who died from cancer. He didn't eat no meat, allegedly, but he died from cancer. How is that? Just some food for thought, right? Saturated fats, animal and dairy are stable because they return to solid after they cool down from cooking with them. Saturated fats, animal and dairy fats are stable because they return to solids. Okay, yeah, when they're cooled down. But here's the thing, right? I'm glad you brought that up because this is a touchy subject. When you read articles about saturated fat, they tell you stay away from saturated fat because it hardens at room temperature. Let's think about that. What does room temperature and saturated fat hardening have to do with the human body? Nothing. Because what's the temperature of the human body? 98.6. So just on that point alone, how would the saturated fat harden in the human body and clog the arteries? How? Most microwaves go up to 100 degrees. Put some butter inside a microwave and see what happens for 10 minutes, for 5 minutes, for 2 minutes, 5 seconds. What happens to the butter? It starts to melt. And if the human body is 98.6, just on that point alone, that's brain dead foolishness. Right? So it needs to bleed for me to eat. Hey, I feel you. I'm the same way. But look, here's the thing, right? Let's go even deeper on the saturated fat. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. Let's go deeper on the saturated fat. Because we're ignorant. I'm saying we, everybody, me, you, a lot of people were ignorant. How does saturated fat, or I'm just going to say fat, period. How does fat digest or break down in the human body? Fat goes into the lymphatic system. It does not go into the bloodstream like the rest of the stuff, right? So you got the small intestines, the villi. The food comes in, they're grabbing it, and they're trying to separate and pull and break it down. Okay, this has vitamins, this goes here. This has protein, this goes here. This has minerals, this goes here. This is water, boom, boom, boom. They're sending all over the place, right? But when it detects fat, the molecules of fat is too big to get sucked into the villi, the pores of the villi. So instead of it going into the bloodstream, fat goes into the lymphatic system. Why is that important? Because they tell us that fat clogs the arteries. Check this out. So it goes into the lymphatic system and it goes through this whole process. And by the time it gets into the bloodstream, it's no longer the saturated fat or the fat that it was when it first went into the lymphatic system. It comes out as something totally different. So it's a bold-faced lie to scare you into eating junk, to eating nutrient-less foods, to becoming unhealthy. And when you look into these articles and the people who are responsible for these articles, it's the same folks, different strokes. So yeah, our bodies aren't cold inside. We need saturated fats to live. Exactly. You need saturated fats for your eyes. You need saturated fat for your brain. Check this out, right? When I was on a vegan diet or a plant-based diet, I was starting to forget stuff all the time. I was having brain fog, memory issues. I'd be having conversations and you wouldn't know it, right? But I would be like trying to focus on what we're talking about, and my brain would just be like really loopy. And I'd be like, man, I wish this conversation, he'd hurry up and stop talking because I can't focus. I added meat and dairy back into my diet, and within a week, the mental clarity came back like that. I was able to focus a little bit better. And as the months went on, my mental clarity came back. The brain fog went away. The dizzy spells went away just by adding meat and dairy into my diet. It's absolutely necessary for the human anatomy. You need it. You need the saturated fat for your brain. Check this out, right? The brain. Let's talk about the brain for a quick second. We're still talking about the dangers of a plant-based diet. Let's talk about the brain. The brain is fat. The brain is made up of fat. The brain needs fat to function optimally. What most people don't know about the brain is the brain automatically takes 20% of whatever you consume. Let's think about that. When you eat anything, the brain automatically demands 20%. So if the small intestine is responsible for 60 to 90% of nutrient absorption, and the brain automatically takes 20%, right? When you're eating plants, this is another reason why you're always hungry on a plant-based diet. When you're eating plants, it goes into the small intestines, and the small intestines try to take whatever type of nutrients it can, and it does get some nutrients from plants, not enough, but some. And so let's say you get 20% of nutrient absorption from the small intestine, and your brain needs 20%, right? So you don't have a whole lot left. And so you and your brain, the body and the brain is struggling to snatch up nutrients from plants. And what happens is the body stores nutrients. The body stores iron, minerals, vitamins. The body stores all of this up as you consume it. But when you eat plants, because you're not constantly replenishing your body with the amount of nutrients that it needs, it goes into those reserves. And then it starts to take away from those reserves. If you're on YouTube, I'm live on YouTube and Instagram. So that's why you see me looking up this way sometimes, is because I'm on Instagram also. I'm trying YouTube for the first time. I've never done a YouTube live. So I'm a little bit excited today. You see, I'm talking kind of fast. I need to calm down. But when you consume the plants, your body is, because it's not getting enough nutrients, it begins to go into those reserves and take from what you have stored. And that's why people begin to lose weight. That's why you have fertility issues. Women have all types of feminine issues. Males have all types of feminine, masculine reproductive issues, because you need the saturated fat. You need the foods that the body can actually take and get nutrients from. What other questions do y'all have? Any other questions? So, my whole goal as I continue is to try to, just continue to connect with people and to elaborate on the dangers of a plant-based diet, to elaborate on the things that most people never think about. People ask me all the time, they say, man, how do you come up with this stuff? Or how do you, I never even thought about that. That's how my brain works. But a lot of times I go into my comments and, I read the comments, and people will ask questions, or they'll make silly statements that, just untrue stuff that they regurgitate from a guru that they heard. Like I heard one guru said, fruit has how did he say? He said fruit has all the necessary nutrients that the human body needs. Fruit has all the necessary nutrients that the human body needs. That is a bold-faced lie. It's an ignorant statement because fruit doesn't have heme iron. Fruit doesn't have DHA. Fruit doesn't have D3. Fruit doesn't have creatine. Fruit doesn't have retinol. Right? So how can you say fruit has all the necessary nutrients that the body needs? But yet, one of your assistants came to me and told me that the same people that you promote your herbs to, you give your fruit to, they're coming back and they're saying, hey, these herbs aren't working. Hey, my stomach is still messed up. Hey, I got all these issues. But you don't talk about the after effect. You don't talk about years later because it's all about right now. We all get excited. I wasn't, I was sick. I needed answers. I had so much blood in my urine. It was scary. I thought I was dying. I was desperate. I needed answers. And so I turned to a plant-based diet. I didn't know any better. And it was great in the beginning. I was hyped up. I was telling everybody, yeah, I got a whole bunch of energy. I feel good. Yada, 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 right? I'm excited. And then what happened? 2.5 years later, I'm struggling to remember stuff. I'm tired all the time. I'm dizzy at work. I would have dizzy spells like 12 to 15 times a day to where I felt like, I was going to pass out sometimes, all the time. So, everybody's promoting this plant-based trend, but nobody's talking about the long-term negative effects of a plant-based diet. Nobody's talking about that. But guess what? In this community, we are talking about it. So hopefully y'all got something from this. Do you have any more questions? Hopefully y'all got something from this. I'm happy that, you guys are 3 months in, 2 months in, 6 months in, and you're still going strong. You realize what the plants are doing to the body and the negative effects that the plants are doing to the body. And you're realizing that you need the meat. You need the eggs and the cheese. You need the cholesterol. Cholesterol is not bad. That's a bold-faced lie. More people are eating salads today, and we're still seeing cancer, diabetes, heart attacks, liver problems, gout, everything. You're still seeing all this stuff. You're welcome. You're welcome. Right? And so my phone is ringing. I thought I put my phone on silent, but apparently I didn't. Now my phone is on silent. And hopefully it didn't mess the live up. Can y'all still hear me? I'm so glad I started eating meat, eggs, and dairy again. I feel so much better. You and me both. You and me both. It's funny because I started a business. I started selling herbs. I was telling people all about the benefits of a plant-based diet and all the stuff that it does for you, not realizing that I was ignorant, right? Very ignorant. And so I'm going to probably stay on another 5 minutes. Do I have any more questions? I'm excited that I survived going YouTube live talking about the dangers of a plant-based diet. And you'd be surprised how many people I talk to on a regular who message me and say, hey, I'm having these problems. How do you convince my children? How do you convince my children they don't eat vegetables? How do I convince my children? Are you saying that you want your children to eat vegetables or you don't want them to eat vegetables? Can you rephrase that just a little bit? Because if you're trying to convince them to eat vegetables, I think they'll be okay not having them. It's weird. It's interesting too because I didn't like meat when I was a kid. I remember hating the taste of meat. My son was that way. My little sister was that way. It's the oddest thing. I didn't start eating meat probably till I was maybe 5, 6. I don't remember, to be honest, but I didn't like it. So I'm going to stay on to see if I can answer. If you can rephrase your question, are you saying how do you convince your children to eat meat, or that they don't need meat, or I'm sorry, that they don't need vegetables? Is that what you're saying? So if you're on here, don't forget, go to my YouTube channel, subscribe. I'll be doing a lot more videos on YouTube. I'll be doing lives on YouTube. How do I convince my children they don't need to eat vegetables? When they were little, I used to pressure them to eat the vegetables. How old are they now? Are they like older? Are they, middle school, high school? It all depends. You can get some articles and have them read it or explain some things to them. That's what I would suggest. You can, depends on how old they are, you can have them look at some videos on YouTube, look at my channel, look at my Instagram page, and check out some of my reels. What unique supplements do you recommend? They're 20 and 30. Whoo! Okay, well, let me answer this other question first. So, what unique supplements do I recommend? I don't necessarily recommend any supplements. I think that if you eat predominantly meat-based, you get pretty much all the necessary nutrients that you need. A lot of the vitamins and supplements are gimmicks. They don't really have a lot of what you think you need or what you think is in there. If you look at the percentage of what's in these, they aren't good. I take right now, I tried out a organ meat supplement, and I take that every now and then. I was taking creatine and minerals. Minerals is probably something that you wouldn't be a bad thing. Find a good company that sells minerals, and you could add that to your water, to your milk, whatever you drink. Hopefully that helps. So your children are 20 and 30. That's going to be kind of hard. Like I said, I would just send them some videos, send them some articles talking about it, and see, it'd really be up to them. You can be an example. Learn some stuff and talk to them about it. Teach them about it. So kids love mashed cauliflower instead of mashed potatoes. Okay. I'm not I'm not saying that eating fruits are bad and it's the enemy. And if you eat fruits, if you eat vegetables, it's the worst thing. No, you just have to understand that can't be. If you're going to indulge in any type of plants, right? You have to understand that cannot be your source for nutrients. You have to understand that you're not getting enough nutrients into your body. You just have to understand that. You just have to be educated on what you're actually doing and know that 60 to 90% of your nutrients comes from meat. It's a fact. And so hopefully you guys got something from this. Hopefully it was beneficial. There was some great questions asked. I really appreciate everybody taking the time to hop on and chat. And we will do this again soon. Like I said, I'm going to try to go live more often on YouTube, on Instagram, and just, have more of a presence on these spaces. And so, salute. Have a good night, good day, depending on where you are in the world, in the country. And I will talk to you guys soon.